Let's talk about all the recent news that has been coming out of Nintendo here. I've kind of let the dust settle with all these different trailers and stuff that have come out between Nintendo Switch 2 Direct and then the Mario Kart World Direct. It's crazy to see how much things have changed over the past couple of months. Nintendo Switch 2 and the idea of a new Mario Kart game were some of the most anticipated things in gaming before they were officially announced. People were clamoring so much for any information on Switch 2 and any games that were like being made at some point. Now we got it here, right? Got Mario Kart, we got a whole bunch of other games. I'll get into the other ones later. Now that all this new information is out, after months of waiting for these directs, I've seen so much negativity and vitriol towards the Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart specifically. I think the other games they've announced aren't really catching the same negative reception that Mario Kart is getting. I think the obvious big reason is that Mario Kart World is $80. Nobody likes that. I figured that while watching Nintendo Switch 2 Direct and I saw all the specs, I was like, yeah, this thing might be like 500 buckaroos, and it ended up being 450, which is kind of like a middle line between the lowest and highest cost people were speculating. Nintendo Switch 2 has some cool new functionalities, mainly that you can use the Joy-Cons as mice. That will bring some new innovative ideas that only the Switch 2 can pull off. And I just like the fact that for shooting games, for example, I can use a mouse and then have another actual controller in my other hand instead of a keyboard, right? Like, I've never found keyboard buttons very comfortable, even when I get used to it for any particular game. So I just might have to get any shooter game that uses a mouse on my Switch 2. Back to my original talking point, alright? I think most people weren't super happy with the price of the Switch 2, but it wasn't the worst case scenario. I feel like people weren't going to riot over it, but then you take into the fact that the one and only launch title that isn't some tech demo anyway is $80 freaking dollars, and yeah, that's a big oof, alright? Mario Kart, it's a big deal. Everybody's been looking forward to it, but 80 bucks with Nintendo Switch 2 bundle becomes 50 bucks, but you're paying 500 bucks for the whole package, and I think that hurts no matter what. Before I even get into my thoughts on into Mario Kart World, spoiler, they are very positive. I do have to talk about what everybody else is talking about. Again, it's the price of $80. Sets a bad precedent in basically every single way. I honestly don't know what Nintendo's thinking here. I feel like Mario Kart World had a chance to get away with an $80 price tag without much happening, but no, it's getting a lot of backlash, and I'll get into why. But for now, let's just talk about the precedent this sets. Let's just say, for example, when GTA 6 really starts getting marketed, right? I feel like it will definitely price the game at $80 now. I think it was probably going to be 70, but I'm positive that'll be 80 now. Actually, I've heard all the rumors that they were thinking about making the game $100, and I always took that with a grain of salt because GTA 6's target audience is just not going to really be able to justify paying $100 for a video game. Like, I'm not saying they're poor and they can't afford things, but like, they are a casual audience for sure, and they are going to look at just this one game being $100 and see all the other ones being like 30 bucks less and say, yeah, I think I'm going to buy a cheaper one for little Jimmy, I can confirm, by the way, that there's many mothers, grandmas, and aunts buying kids GTA 6 because they're too stupid to realize that there's things like, just naughty things. All right, let's just say that. Or they just don't care at all. That wouldn't shock me. We take a look at GTA 6, which will undeniably be a huge game. Probably would be worth $80 if it does end up being more content rich than GTA 5, alright? Price there is probably justified, barring any, performance issues or anything like that that might screw up the game. $80 to me, it should be an exception, right? I just feel like if more games start adopting that $80 price tag just because they're like AAA games, that it could just open the floodgates for them to basically put prices on stuff that just isn't justifiable. I mainly worry about like sports games, for example. They appeal to a casual audience too, and they really don't care how much money they take from the consumer, They just leech as much as they can out of regular people who don't know any better. Games could end up being as costly as like $150 with DLC or special launch editions, and I just don't think that's healthy for the industry at all. I don't know, it just makes them less accessible to everybody, especially with people in other countries because their prices are inflated compared to some others. But if $80 becomes a new normal for AAA titles, then I think the casual audience will probably adjust over time, but I'm not saying they're just going to accept the higher prices, no. What I see happening is that they'll probably just stick to the games that are $60, which means that these new games and these new consoles aren't going to sell very well, right? People are just going to stick to the old stuff that's cheaper. Or people just buy the games later when they go on sale. Man, I feel like people wouldn't really be complaining about Mario Kart World's price so much if Nintendo actually did good sales on their games. You know that freaking Mario Kart World at most is going to get like a $20 discount maybe twice a year, and it's still $60, dude. Like that doesn't even feel like a deal. $80 games don't really have to sell as well to make a decent profit, right? The extra $10 or $20 will add up. I think the goal for these games is to sell very well regardless. I have no doubt that Mario Kart World and even Donkey Kong Bonanza are going to sell less than Mario Kart 8 and Mario Odyssey respectively. By how much is an interesting question. I think Mario Kart being the bundled in-game will help it for sure, at least at the start of the Switch 2's lifespan. It seems like the Mario Kart bundle will be in production until the fall. So, they might have a different bundle for Christmas, and that's where the sales of Mario Kart World might fall as well. Again, I feel like there's a certain section of the casual audience who gets World for $80 because they are willing to bite the bullet to get it as a gift, and there might be some who get Mario Kart 8 for the Switch 2 if they somehow didn't have it before. Like, the biggest thing about Switch 2 is that the existing Switch 1 library is not getting replaced, so the popular games will still be on sale in stores, and there will be new Switch 1 versions of games coming out as late as next year. So I don't know how exactly they'll pivot if these price increases don't work out, but I think they have a chance to if need be at least. I think they'll want to make the focus be on the Switch 2 no matter what, but they might have to make some more new games available for Switch 1 than they want to. Something actually has just recently came out, right? Nintendo's talked about how 2.2 million people have applied for pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2, which is definitely a good sign. I mean, that's already 1/8 of the sales that the Nintendo Switch 1 has gotten, and the thing's not even out yet. That's 2.2 million people that are potentially committed to buying a Switch 2, which I think is cool, right? But then what people buy on the console itself, again, that's the question I'm wondering. I think, the idea of buying a Nintendo Switch 2 and then, I don't know, just getting Switch 1 games or just staying with the Switch 1, it would kind of follow how lots of modern games still have like PS4 and Xbox One versions of games because nobody wants to buy new consoles. I think the reason why people don't buy PS5s or Series X is because those consoles don't really have console selling exclusives. Nintendo never really has that problem, but it'll be interesting to see them potentially struggle regardless because of the insane prices on their games and accessories. Over $100 for Joy-Cons is crazy, and yes, if you include taxes, at least for me, it's going to be well over $100. Those freaking things better not drip, right? That's all I'm going to say. I just think that all this stuff is crazy to watch and unfold because I think everybody came out of the Nintendo Directs with positive thoughts, and then prices came, and that's just curbed all that enthusiasm. Some people are still excited, but I understand the outrage. Like, ultimately for me, the prices of stuff does matter. I sympathize with the idea that for what developers do on the art side of things and the technical side of things, for what they're able to pull off nowadays, that they should be rewarded more for their work, right? We have an industry that is so indifferent to their employees. Layoffs have been a normal thing and job security is just non-existent in the gaming industry. Nintendo feels like one of the only game companies where laying off employees would be like their last resort, but as a result, we got these crazy prices on things for them to just feel justified to make new premium hardware and software. It's not great. I think there are better ways of handling it, probably, but I don't know, just because Nintendo has a strong, loyal player base, right? I feel like they can get away with it, but I don't know. Their recent prices and PR surrounding this stuff it's not been good. I don't know if it's going to really matter in the end because no matter what, sure, they got loyal consumers, but this stuff's starting to add up. You can just see it, right? There are other ways to get more money from a consumer besides just bumping up the price of your games. Most modern games offer special launch editions of games, which to me are usually never worth it, but there are options, right? Some developers guarantee paid DLC in the future or even have DLC from the start that you can buy. right? Usually, if it's at the start of the game, it's significant stuff like costumes for characters. Nintendo could totally do stuff like that. Imagine if they sold some costumes at launch for Mario Kart World for $1 each, right? And then made the game $70 instead. There would be much less backlash, I feel, right? Like maybe some people would be mad that Nintendo's not making quote unquote complete games and jumping on the unsavory trends that plague modern gaming. For me, though, costumes are something that don't affect my gameplay, so I could buy them if I wanted to, and that's that. It doesn't really change my perception on the quality of the game in any way. I still feel like there would be plenty of unlockable costumes within the game, so it feels like a missed opportunity. In a way, I'm glad Nintendo is still somewhat old school with their mentality on their games. If that mentality means that their games are going to be more expensive because of how big and complete their games are, I don't know again if it's necessarily a bad thing. Their games are more complete, right? But the price tag just being at or over $80 is just crazy. How do you justify that, right? Mario Kart World being $80. That tells me that the game should be better than like other $70 games in every way. Right? That's what that tells me. You can compare it to like Elden Ring, a game that's actually $60. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's $70. Even Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is $70. Okay? Apparently, the graphics of Mario Kart World are better than all those games. The scale of the open world is better, the music is better, the gameplay is better. The game has more replay value, things to do, a longer runtime, I should say. Like, every aspect that you can possibly think of. Apparently, according to Nintendo, Mario Kart World is better in every single way, and that's why it's priced higher. That's kind of like the impression that you get, and that's why it's like so offensive to people, that they would even do something like this. Nobody's buying into that. Nobody's buying into the idea that this is like the best video game ever. Like, sure, it's a Mario Kart game. Mario Kart games are great every single time. There is a lot of replay value to Mario Kart games, right? Especially with the online stuff. I mean, maybe for many people they will play it and say it's their favorite game of all time and say the price is justified, but Nintendo has done a bad job of communicating what makes Mario Kart World better than basically any game in existence. So it sucks. It sucks to see as a Nintendo fan, and I've been waiting for Mario Kart World forever. I'm still going to be buying the game as soon as it comes out. I'm going to try and get a bundle. I don't know how things are going to go, but I'm going to try. Yeah, let's actually talk about Mario Kart World as a game now, okay? And what we know about it. In the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, we got a general idea of what we could expect out of World, but it was obvious there was more to it than what was shown. And they said there'd be a direct dedicated to Mario Kart World, as we can see here. It's been playing in the background. At this point, it has aired, and everybody agrees that it still didn't really show as much about the game that we didn't know already. Just like 1 or 2 new things here and there, and that's really about it. We got some more pieces of information about the free roam mode, mainly that there's over 100 missions to complete, and there's some collectibles to get. We also got our first look at battle mode, but other than that, it felt like it was just treading the same ground as the previous Direct did, so it felt a bit pointless. If you're going for the approach that you don't want to reveal too much about the game and leave plenty of surprises for people to discover and post about on social media, then why even do a dedicated Direct for World, right? I don't know. It's a marketing fumble for sure, because it, again, just felt like they didn't want to share too much. In the long term, it's going to work out once the game is actually out, but in the short term, I think it's done a lot of damage, right? Like people who maybe were interested in the game, seeing the prices, and they're seeing that, okay, yeah, the game's going to be good, but it's not going to be that good, right? It's not going to be good enough to justify spending $80, and they're kind of getting turned off. So the hype has really died down. Casual audience who hasn't watched the Treehouse streams or gameplay footage from these playtest events probably did like the Mario Kart World Direct, but the hardcore fans just aren't too thrilled. What I personally think is going to happen is that the reception of Mario Kart World will continue to be more negative leading up to release, honestly. It's dying down a little bit now because all these directs are done and Nintendo's kind of going quiet a little bit, just having some commercials about the game and Nintendo Switch 2 here and there. I think the negative reception might actually affect the sales a little bit. If the bundle sells out everywhere, I really do think that there will be a small chunk of people who will refuse to buy World at $80 and they'll just wait for the bundle. But as World videos and other social media posts flood the internet, you might get some people to budge to buy Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World separate. But even with that, I think most people who wouldn't buy it still wouldn't after seeing gameplay footage, right? I mean, there's already plenty of it out there. So I think Nintendo will get away with the price increases without a ton of loss in revenue and customers. I mean, obviously nothing is selling better than Nintendo Switch 1, so I think they're just banking on the price increases making up for these games not selling as well. And probably as a result, the company will be valued less to investors too. That's a whole other thing. I don't think most of us care about that, but they're probably looking to flaunt overall revenue rather than how much the stuff is selling. I think that's kind of what they're banking on. So sorry I'm going back to all the prices on stuff. I can't help it. I did business classes in college and I find this stuff interesting. I'll actually talk about the game now, okay? For me, I really like what I'm seeing out of this game. Characters all look the best they've ever looked outside of something like Wonder. There's a lot of fun costumes for many characters, and that's just fun to see. Not to mention that some of these character picks are absolutely insane in a good way. You can play as a cow, of course. That's going to be my main. You can play as the bat, the swooper, I think it's called. You can play as a snowman. You can play as the side stepper, aka the crab. You can play as a cataquack. It just feels like this roster is only really possible just by devs putting some random Mario characters' names in a hat and then pulling them out and saying, okay, we got to add them now. So I think it's great, honestly. The visuals are very vibrant, right? This footage doesn't really do it justice. I've played Mario Kart 8 a little more recently, obviously for the tier list I just did. I played Moo Moo Meadows, and then I looked back at the Mario Kart World trailers to see how it looks in that game, and just holy crap, dude. I don't think Mario Kart 8 looks bad at all, but I much prefer how World is looking in every way. World still has the detail that 8 has, and has just much more vibrant colors and better looking models, so I feel like it's an upgrade in every single way compared to 8. The gameplay looks much more engaging than it's ever been too. Sure, there's no anti-gravity or underwater sections, but instead you've got freaking rail grinding, wall driving as well, and races on vast open sea. I think it's different in a good way. I still don't know if I like the idea of driving on water over underwater, but I think it does open up some new possibilities, so I'm okay with it being that way in this game, right? I'd probably want underwater stuff back in the next game though, so I just feel like it limits what old tracks can come back so much. Speaking of, I think all the tracks look great in this game from what I've seen, right? I've watched footage on almost all the tracks in the game, and the new ones look amazing. The old ones are really cool too because of new visuals, and then there's just new sections to the tracks now thanks to the rail grinding, and you can like ride up walls to go into different sections now on some tracks, which is really cool. In the case of like Wario Stadium, they're removal some sections, actually kind of make it better to drive on in a way. I'd say the biggest glow up is Choco Mountain. You guys know how I feel about Choco Mountain in Mario Kart 8. It's just one of the most okay tracks in that game. Like, I feel nothing while I'm driving on it, but I don't know, I like the music. It's fun. Other than that, I just don't care for it. Now it's like a muddy football stadium with charging chucks all over the place, and it feels like a whole new track, dude. It honestly feels weird for it in Wario Stadium to be in the same game, and it feels like Choco Mountain as a stadium track does look superior, and I think that's pretty funny. I don't know. I just think it's funny that Wario Stadium finally, like the final N64 track, is here, right? It's never returned in any other game, and then they add Choco Mountain, also from N64, and they just make it a better stadium track for some reason. It's getting all of its spotlight stolen probably when the game comes out, I think. I really like what they did to Dino Jungle as well. There's more dinosaurs running around in Dino Jungle. You can drive on one of them and like rail grind on another. It's crazy. I love it. Got a Jurassic Park theme going, which is also pretty cool. In terms of new tracks, my standout favorite is the Question Block Floating Island, which I feel like they might actually be heading towards in this footage, maybe? I don't know. That track just looks really cool visually, and it seems like it has a lot of different routes to take and is tricky to drive on. I feel like all the other original tracks in this game are really cool though. I'm gonna like them all, probably. I think the rail grinding and wall driving adds so much to every track, so there's so many ways you can drive on a track now without making the tracks like bigger or more confusing for newcomers. People will figure out the best routes, and they will probably be crazy to watch, right? I can't wait for the time trial stuff at the beginning of this game. I think there's more room to improvise with the charge jump mechanic. Maybe with it you can go on walls and jump past a bunch of people to just make some crazy plays, maybe at the finish line, I just think there's potential for it to be super duper fun. Even the first track in the game, Mario Brothers Circuit, it looks like it's a standout first track for sure. I think it might be one of the best first tracks in Mario Kart history. I've seen some possible shortcuts I haven't seen people use in gameplay footage, so I just want to like experiment with all the tracks to figure out what I can do in them. What else? Oh yeah, I need to talk about Grand Prix and how it works in this game. So your first race is a traditional 3-lap race on one track, okay? Then you have 3 other races, okay, just like in any other Grand Prix. You actually drive from the previous track to the next one. That is a really cool idea, but I've seen people complain about the execution. I do see where people are coming from, but as someone who's watched a lot of footage of these, like, intermissions, they're called, I feel like it's not as bad as people make them out to be. Seems like for the first 2 or 3 cups, the intermission sections are very linear, straight roads with not much going on outside of hazards to avoid. I feel like they get better and better as you move through the cups from left to right, though. I've seen footage of the intermission to like Bowser's Castle, for example, which is one of the last tracks in the game, and it was actually pretty cool. You get blasted towards an airship and drive on like the side of it. It's a really cool visual. It's not like, I don't know, what song's playing right now? What's this map called? I already forget it. It's not like that where you like drive on it for like 2 seconds and leave. It's actually like a really big airship. And like the scale of it's much bigger. And it's kind of what I wanted out of Cloud Top Cruise. Thank you, Brain. I think there will be some memorable moments in these intermission tracks, right? They'll probably be comparable to the tour tracks. I think people will appreciate them for what they are, but most people will probably just like the classic format more ultimately. There's Knockout Tour, which is similar in concept, but with a fun twist. So you're just going to do one long drive through a certain route. You're not going to be driving multiple laps on a track. You might not even drive through the entirety of any track, right? You just keep going and going. Along the way, you get these checkpoints, and if you aren't in a certain place when you go through one, you are eliminated. So eventually you'll go from 24 racers to 4 racers. It seems like the item scaling gets pretty crazy when there's just 4 people. In the treehouse footage, I think I saw someone get like a bullet bill in 4, so that'll be pretty intense. I hear from basically everyone who's played the game at these events that this is their favorite mode. For me, once I explore free roam, I will probably spend a long time consistently playing Knockout Tour. Just seems really fun. I haven't talked about free roam really, but it seems neat. Looks like there will be plenty of things to do and unlock. It's just really weird how in the Direct they didn't talk about any unlockable stuff in free roam more. It's one of those things that they should have elaborated on more, because I don't know. For example, why are they keeping car decals a secret? Who cares that much? Like literally in this footage, if you look, you can see a little plus button when they're selecting their carts and stuff. I'll go back to it. You see it like right here. Have a nice drive, okay? That's an unlockable probably. It's a little decal that shows up on your car. Why wouldn't they talk about the fact that free roam's probably going to be the way you unlock those? I don't know. If there's anything to unlock, I say just show it. It's just a little something, man. It's just a little something to look forward to. How do you expect people to get excited about free roam if you don't really want to tell us why you're going in that mode outside of just, meandering around and doing missions? They showed some of those crazy, I don't know what to call it, but there's these big vehicles you can get in, and those seem pretty cool. Get like this big double-decker semi-truck. There's a boat, there's a helicopter. Like, why not just at least talk about it? They showed it, but they don't like talk about it, and they don't talk about if it's just going to be in free roam or if it's going to show up in other modes, right? If it's going to show up in actual racing. It seems like it does, but they just don't talk about it. It's weird. I just feel like for anything that they showed in the Direct like that, if they show it but they don't elaborate on it like that, I just think that's really dumb. Yeah, I think they're a cool idea. I wish they were elaborated on a little bit more. They seem like special items almost, right? Like they only appear in certain places, and I think that's really cool. People wanted a reason to be excited for free roam specifically, and they gave us the bare minimum. It's not good marketing at all. Even if there's not much more to it, I would have liked to see a little bit more. Okay, like you can just tell there's something there, and they just aren't saying what what's going on there. Like, I don't want to seem like I just want them to show everything off. Like, I don't. I want them to keep some secrets, and I really do appreciate the fact that they do want to keep a lot of stuff secret. Like, for example, when they showed off Rainbow Road, they didn't show off the actual track, but they just said, if you do this certain thing, then Rainbow Road's going to show up. Okay, you elaborated on it. That's good enough. Just like the biggest thing about that Mario Kart Direct, it just felt so corporate and safe. It was like, it was at least competent. It's not cringy with its dialogue or anything. It was fine. And, I don't know. People need a reason to be excited. There's not a lot there. Speaking of things I'm not too excited about, battle mode. It doesn't look bad, but yeah, it's just balloon battle and coin chasers and who knows how many maps. Right? They didn't talk about that. It's just disappointing coming from Mario Kart 8, which, yeah, it started off with the worst battle mode ever, but they fixed it in the Switch version. It's just 2 modes, and that's it. It's kind of sad. I've seen people talk about, like, the exclusion of Renegade Roundup, and, like, yeah, dude, Piranha Plant is playable now. How are they going to do it without the Piranha Plant item? I guess you could maybe use a Mega Mushroom instead. Like, that's the only item I would be replacing the Piranha Plant. But other than that, I don't get the outrage over that. 2 battle modes isn't great. I wish there's 3, right? 3 is a nice little sweet spot. Maybe they should have added like a new one, or just bring back like Shine Thief. Oh my god, my mouth. I can't talk. They got so much sunshine love, like, in the game already. Just why not get the shines in there too? And ironically, my biggest takeaway from the Mario Kart World Direct was that it was going to have a lot of good music. I've heard so many remixes of so many songs, and they all sound amazing. There's even remixes from other Mario games that aren't like old Mario Kart games, right? Like, we got Bomb on Battlefield, which is really cool. And again, this makes me think, like, I wonder if there's some kind of radio for free roam, right? Because why are these music tracks even playing in the first place? Like, where are they going to play? Are they going to play on the intermissions otherwise? I don't know. It feels like it's one of those things where there probably is going to be a radio and you could choose different songs. At least I hope so. If that's not in the game, I'm again going to be pretty disappointed by that. They have so many songs in the game, obviously. Like, if there's unlockable music tracks, that'd be sick. I would love to go into free roam just to unlock all the music, honestly, because I'm just a big music guy. The Toad's Factory music, oh my god, it's euphoric. Oh my god. I'm so happy that track is finally coming back. It's one of my favorite Mario Kart tracks ever. It's great to see it that it's just finally in this game. I think the retro selection actually in this game is pretty decent. I'm not thrilled about the picks, but I think there's enough fan favorites in there for me to be okay with it. I wish they did just pick retros that didn't come back in Mario Kart 8, but the only ones we got were, Mario Circuit 3, Moo Moo Meadows, and Choco Mountain. That's not bad, and I'd say that all those tracks feel very different from the 8 versions, because, Mario Circuit 3 is part of 2 other Mario Circuits. They, like, mushed them all together. Moo Moo Meadows just kind of looks like it's more open in a way, and, I don't know, there's, like, a barn house now that you can run into. Like, there's these new little sections to it, I think, from what I can tell in footage. And then, again, I already talked about Choco Mountain being completely different. Not bad. I'd say that the thing that I'm sad about with the retro course selection is that there's only one track coming back from Mario Kart 8, and that's Sky High Sunday. And yes, I do consider that a Mario Kart 8 track. Maybe I'm factually incorrect because I don't know if it's technically a tour track, actually. I don't know. I consider it a Mario Kart 8 track because, I don't know. It was just new to that game, and I don't know if it came out, like, the same time as it did in Tour. Like, I don't know which one came first. But I don't play Tour, so it feels like a Mario Kart 8 thing to me, alright? I get not bringing back stuff from Mario Kart 8 with no anti-gravity or underwater stuff, but of all the stuff to bring back, right? If you're gonna bring back one thing from Mario Kart 8, it's gonna be Sky High Sunday. Really? At the very least, I think they've made the track much more interesting in World. I've seen footage where there's more, like, mushroom shortcuts in it. There's rail grinding, of course. There's kind of like 3/4 into the track, how you can, like, kind of jump off all those little, like, glass panels, it looks like, before you go around the bend and get on, like, the ice cubes. That little section there, it looks like there's, like, a new shortcut there. There's more places to drive on. So like they made it a little more interesting. It's still an oval, but they made it a little more interesting. I appreciate that. Track feels incomplete in Mario Kart 8 to me, and World feels like it's actually acceptable and fun to race on. So I'm cool with that. I think I'm done now. We're wrapping up with Mario Kart 8. I don't think I really have much else to say. Unlocking costumes like this, that's cool. Fine. Unlocking stuff just by playing the game, like, it seems pretty organic. I do like that progression system where if I just play the game, I'll eventually unlock everything. It's kind of like Mario Kart 8 in that way, where, you know, you just collect coins and you'll eventually get all the carts. So I like that. But yeah, man, game looks gorgeous, dude. Absolutely gorgeous. New battle mode for Mario Kart World, Mario Kart 99. Yeah, I would love that. I haven't really even talked about like the possibility of DLC again. Isn't it weird that the Mario Kart Direct didn't really cover that? I think it's weird. I think it's very weird. Again, for an $80 game, you would think that maybe there'd be something going on there. But I hope, yeah, there's like DLC for the game, and that's kind of like one of the things they might do. Oh, I want to move around a little bit, but I can't. I'm stuck to my setup here. It's gonna be fine. I don't have socks on and my feet are getting cold. Where?